The vast world of cinema is full of experimental moments that were made to break the boundaries of how a film can be made, or can be understood. From the beginning of the 1900s to this day, the people's imagination went to places that allowed to make movies just from scenes taken from the streets, where the main character is the city, or try to capture moments from the day-by-day activities of people in which basically nothing is happening, or even long shot scenes in which a character just eats a soup for 10 minutes. Yeah, those scenes really happened. However, there are movies that could be considered as experiments or simple movies that could reach the casual viewer in no time. No matter how simple or how weird those movies might be, somehow they have something special that makes them memorable. In this video, I will talk about a film that is exactly like that. My Dinner with Andre is a 1981 film directed by Malle, with Andre Gregory and Wallace Shawn as the main characters. The film presents a simple, normal discussion between the fictionalized version of those actors while they eat in a restaurant, talking about philosophy, experimental theater, and their views on life, creating a powerful and metaphorical contrast between the two views. At the first sight of the title, it might be a small expectation of something interesting. But when someone starts to watch the film and sees it just as a simple discussion between two friends, the viewer might wonder what exactly saw and ask itself what it was really about this film. When I saw the film for the first time, I was somehow overwhelmed by the feeling of unique artistic choice. I just saw two men sitting at a table and talking. It felt very simple and unexpected. It felt different and casual. So, what is with this film that made me sit there in the chair and watch it? What is so special about this film when it comes to its place in the history of cinema? When it comes to My Dinner with Andre, the story of the film is as basic as it gets. A man who has some issues in his life goes to a restaurant to talk with one of his old friends who apparently was trying to avoid it for some time. He meets his friend and they start to talk almost all night about theater, about personal unique experiences and views of the world. And that is everything. Wallace sits there while Andre starts to talk about what he thinks and what he experienced. The story is simple, without plot twists, without dynamic moments, without all the things that might make the movie memorable. Or is it? If you think of it, the film is memorable in its own way because it is like that. The story of the film presents simple stories made from different experiences and views and makes you, the viewer, wonder what they talk about. Even if you do not understand what they are talking about, the way they are talking makes you truly feel their thoughts and their ideas. Their discussion has an intriguing philosophical view upon the world, about themselves and how a person might escape the things that might trap him in a vicious cycle, but also about some small coincidences that can make someone see small details in a quite refreshing and joyful way, connecting him with his life experiences. The stories are quite revealing and also represent their characters in a unique way. Wallace is presented as this person who kinda moves with his life day by day, struggling to create something and wants to escape from monotony, from his cage, while Andre is the type of man that he said he had enough and started to explore all those experiences that made him see the world in a quite new and amazing perspective. What makes their discussion quite impactful for the viewer is both of them are part of the same world. Both of them are working in the theater world, but both of them had different experiences. So the main connection and the basis for the philosophical talks is there. It is the world of theater, but from that, the discussion also goes in other places. Andre is presenting all those types of exercises that he experimented with other people regarding theater, which are quite unique, which are quite thrilling and chilling experiences, but present a new perception on life, and Wallace is amazed by what he hears. In a very common or possibly stretched way, the two characters present elements of midlife crisis, and the way they are talking could represent the two sides of the context. Andre is the man who passed his crisis, who found himself again and sees the world with new eyes, while Wallace is the man who has the crisis and doesn't know what to do. This thing could be understood from the way the film begins and ends. You could say that Wallace is the main character of the film because the film starts with him and you get to know the context from him and his point of view. You know who Wallace is, what he does, why he goes to see with Andre. And then there is the discussion, and at the end of the film, when Wallace goes home, you see him completely changed and sees the places he always passes by and remembers moments from his life with joy. You can clearly see Andre had an impression on him. So whether it's just a talk between old friends or a change regarding the views of life and escaping of a midlife crisis, the film has a certain impact on the viewer, giving their discussion probably as an example, and it makes the viewer know two men who are totally different and similar at the same time, and makes the viewer understand their struggles and their views through only one simple action: sit down and talk about it. But having the characters being presented like that is working only in this type of context, in my opinion. You can't make the characters being so important without the subjects they discuss. I want to talk a bit about those stories because some of them might look terrifying, some of them might look funny, but they are definitely presented to have an impact on the one who listens. Andre is presenting those stories in a certain way. He tells those stories like there are a lesson in the end from his own experience. And Wallace is listening and is trying to evolve those stories by asking different questions. The way Andre is talking, leaving aside all those theater connections that could make the viewer truly understand Andre found his love again for the theater through those experiences, the stories can be taken just as normal experience stories. What is quite interesting to those stories is that they are made in a way to be understood by anyone. Actually, the whole discussion is made like that. It is true, their discussion can be understood and seen as a discussion between two actors who reminisce about different ideas and feelings regarding their careers and their lives. But after all those stories can be listened to and accepted by anyone through their own experiences. It is not necessary to have a certain background. The viewer can understand those stories as moments that somehow bring something back to the listener and to the one who experienced the moment, making it a complete person with a new idea regarding the world, in a way. The theater part of the discussion is there, evidently, but it is just a motive. The way Andre and Wallace wrote those stories, it can be truly felt they tried to send a message regarding the joy of life and this new perspective upon different things. If anyone can understand the message behind their discussion, I think their job succeeded. Whether it can be accepted by the viewer or not as stories that may have a hint in the end, Andre and Wallace's discussion is made to evolve their characters and to show the viewer a change in their way of thinking, leaving an impact on their thoughts and ideas, which it might happen to the viewer too, in a way. The film has almost 2 hours, but honestly, you might not feel that time passing at all. In a quite interesting way, the rhythm of the film is quite dynamic for what the film presents. The way the film is structured, the viewer might sense at the beginning of the film a slow-paced dynamic where the story might make the viewer lose interest quite fast. But from the moment Andre starts to talk and presents his experiences and ideas, the rhythm is accelerated somehow. It can be sensed in a way and can be said that from the moment Andre appears, the story of the film begins. And it might be Andre's personality or his stories, but in my opinion, the film is dynamic from the beginning to the end. It just begins a little bit slow, I think. There are moments when the viewer might say, yeah, I do not understand where this is going, but being caught in the film right there, the viewer won't feel how the time flies. I think that after all, it might be related to the way Andre is behaving and his stories. Their structure, their events, and the way Andre is presenting them as an amazing and out-of-this-world experience gives this sensation of an incredible moment that has to be heard by someone, thus amazing the viewer while it hears what Andre says. Still, after all, the film is presenting a simple discussion between two friends and the viewer can be considered the third friend, the witness to the discussion that finds out both of their opinions. So, making the viewer be an active participant to the meeting, it also might make this sensation of dynamicity being felt. The characters matter, the context matters, the discussion matters, but being there with them, this immersive concept for the viewer, it truly makes the viewer to be there and to not pay attention to the time. Another thing that makes the sensation of being caught into their discussion is the artistic choice and Malle's concept when it comes to this film. From a cinematographic point of view, the film is not that exciting. The film follows the characters through their activity, it shows the viewer their reactions and the way they talk, and that's it. But there is something special that kinda makes the viewer to unknowingly realize the time passes. From time to time, the film interrupts the discussion to show you the characters are in a simple place, in a restaurant, by making a waiter show up from time to time to bring food. This is a way to make the viewer understand those two characters are just simple people and what they are talking about is normal stuff, even though when you listen to them, it might look elevated and smart. It also cuts the tension from time to time to assimilate in a way the whole story that was told until then. But this is not the only element. Malle creates a whole world around those characters with the use of sound. From the moment Andre and Wallace meet in the restaurant, the whole interest of the viewer is only on them. The other things kinda die in the background. While he is focused to present those two characters to the viewer, Malle is using the sound to create an ambience, a lively world around those two to make you realize that while they are talking at the table, the world still moves on. This is used also as a way to make the viewer realize how time passes, but also I think that the way the ambience is created, it truly shows you the connection of the viewer with the discussion of the two characters. When Andre and Wallace start to talk and they sit on the table, you hear almost everything that happens in the restaurant, but as the discussion progresses, the ambience changes, it gets more silent. And this is an interesting fact because you kinda don't realize this is happening. At the first view of the film you are like, oh, okay, they talked until the restaurant got closed and they had to go. And you don't realize this change and evolution of the location. But when you watch the film for a second time and you know the outcome, in a very subtle way, you realize this change in the ambience. This is not made just to pass the time. This presents, in my opinion, the idea that Andre and Wallace are so implicated in their discussion, they do not realize what's happening around them. It is an amazing example, even though it is simple, of a way to create a world using just the sound. You do not need a lot of world building or a certain shot to show how time passes. You just need a little imagination and a subtle hint. Malle had an amazing idea, in my opinion. It is quite a smart move for the film's concept. When I first saw this film, a close friend of mine recommended it, and when she told me about it, I was like, okay, I'll try to see it. In a way, probably because I am trying to work in the world of cinema and theater, I felt attracted to this. Also, I think that because the film is made in a very simple way, it makes it feel unique. When I was in college, the teachers always said that less is more when it comes to making a scene or a situation. You do not need complicated stories, you do not need complicated characters or situations. This film is a good example when it comes to this idea. From time to time, I rewatch this film for various reasons. Sometimes it is just to motivate me to keep moving forward with my projects. Other times, I feel like Andre's stories are making me feel just like Wallace and make me see the small things around me with a more joyful and happy perspective. But it's just me. Now, on a professional level, I can say that My Dinner with Andre is a film worth watching. To someone, maybe it is not a film that might be watched to pass the time, or is just way too artistic for someone to see it, or boring. And I think this depends on the viewer. But it has its qualities. It is not that type of an amazing movie with amazing stories or great special effects or things that could represent a revolutionary breakout in the world of filmmaking. It is just a simple movie about two friends talking with each other in a restaurant. And in a way, this is what makes it memorable. I think that through its simplicity and unique approach to a context, My Dinner with Andre is one of those movies that could be attached to a night when you want to watch an artistic film, but is also a casual film that could be seen every time you wanna relax. So, without further ado, should I recommend this movie to someone passionate about cinema? Definitely. Its uniqueness is what makes this film to be an interest for anyone who might watch it for the first time. It has a certain charm, and for a discussion between two friends, you know it is worth watching. Who knows, maybe it might connect with you at a certain level and see some things in a new perspective, just like a friend is trying to do it for you.